after you've done your half and half drawing and practiced getting that range of value, getting it really dark and really light, and also copying the types of lines that the other artists had done, I want to just fine-tune those skills a little bit. So right now we're doing the tattoo value scales. So this one, I didn't give you a handout because I'm trying to not give you a lot of handouts. So what you're going to do is you're going to click here, and this is a handout you would have gotten. I'm just going to show you what you're going to do with this. Is we already know what value is because in our typography unit we actually did value, which is just a fancy way of saying shading. So value, we're just talking about the lightness or darkness of something, right? And that can be just shades of black and white and grays, or it can be in color. So we're going to worry about color later, but right now we're just going to think in terms of just blacks and grays and whites. So when it's really dark, which is low value, which is as dark as you can go, and extreme high value is like as light as you possibly can, or actually doing nothing. Okay, now the goal of this exercise is to get you really good at doing all of these different stages in value. So that's the secret to making things look convincing, that's three-dimensional. So quite often I just find in high school that we tend to sort of make things either high contrast, so very black and very white, and we're missing all of those middle tones. Or I find that things are kind of muddy and everything is sort of like a low contrast and you're just using these middle tones. Again, none of those things make it convincing that things are three-dimensional. Now, you are no longer allowed to smudge, in case everybody's been smudging. If you have, no more smudging, because it looks messy and it goes outside of the lines. And right, tattoo artists, you can't smudge. You can't smudge when you paint to make things look realistically. So it's important to understand that how this works. So our goal then is practicing two different techniques to get that range of value. Okay, so tattoo artists, one thing that they do is they use a technique called stippling, which is just making things look darker or lighter by using dots, because as we know, the needle goes into the skin, and that's what makes things look darker or lighter, and that's how they apply colors. So you have to understand this concept as a tattoo artist. So to make things darker in stippling, you just have a lot of dots and they're closer together, and the lighter that they go, there's more space in between them. So this is the same concept then as it was for typography in terms of our lettering. So you are going to try your own stippling value scale. So because I don't have this handout for you, you're going to draw this in your book. So I've already done an example here where I've just, in my book with pencil, I've just drawn a value scale with 5 different stages. So I'm going to go from like super, super dark to totally light. Now the nice thing is it's light. What do? Nothing. Right? So you're going to leave that totally blank. Now for this, instead of using a pencil, you could use a pencil. And just a tip, if you are using a pencil and doing stippling, you don't do this. You're actually supposed to put your pencil down and turn it, which would take forever. This used to be my favorite question for exams way back in the day when we used to do art exams, because I would say, give me an example of stippling. And back in the day, we never used to supervise our own exams, and all of a sudden in the exam, one person would start doing this, and then another person would start doing this, and before you know it, the whole class is doing this, and the teacher doesn't know what's going on. Anyhow, I digress. I would use your fine tip marker. Now, in this case, you don't have a super fine tip one, which is actually a good thing for you. So the first one, you're going to fill up the whole box with lots of dots. Again, take your time. This is all practice. Again, the dots are closer together. They are touching. They are overlapping. This one, again, you have to stay inside the lines. So not always in urban art are we going to follow rules, because we're rule breakers. But this one you have to, because again, if you're a tattoo artist, you don't want to be coloring outside the lines. People will be very happy. Anyway, you're filling up the whole entire box. You get the idea. Okay? And then your next one, of course, you're doing the whole box, but I'm only doing a little bit because that's kind of boring. And the next one, you're doing the same thing, but you're just spreading out a little bit more, spreading out a bit more, spreading out a bit more, and then nothing. Okay? Right? So you're going to end up with something like this example. Okay? So that's step number 1. Step number 2, we're going to look at pressure shading, which is the most common type of shading. This is probably what you've used in the past. And again, we're just going to practice our fine motor skills to be able to get all of those different ranges of value in there. Okay, so it takes a little bit of practice, but you're going to be able to do that. Now, my tip is, if you get this as dark as you possibly can, your first square, it gives you more range to be able to do all those extra steps. If you're starting kind of in the middle, it's going to be really hard to get all those different steps. So again, you're going to draw this scale in your book, and then you're going to work from there. Now, so just let me show you how I drew my scale really quickly. I would just take your ruler, which I think this ruler has seen better days. It's a bit wonky, right? And I just traced the shape of my ruler. And then instead of measuring anything, if you want to measure, you totally go ahead. But what I did to make my squares is I just used the ruler sideways. I think the good news is I think your ruler is a bit skinnier and smaller, which means that your box is small. You don't have to do them huge. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ready to go. Oh my gosh, this ruler is awful. Okay, just reach some extra lines. All right, you don't have to do it super dark. Okay, got my scale. Great. And then so the first box, we're going from dark to light. Last box, we don't have to do anything. Our first one, always make sure that you're using your drawing pencil, right? Because your regular math pencil is for math. Isn't that neat? Okay, right? This one, because it's a B pencil, it's softer. You'll be able to get it nice and dark. You stay in the lines, right? Again, I color in circles because for me, that kind of fills up all the spaces. We don't want lines like this. We want to color in circles and fill that whole box. Super, super neat. Okay, so that whole box as dark as you can. You get the point? I'm not doing the whole box. The next one is a little bit lighter. So again, take your time. So again, my advice, see how I'm coloring circles? I'm not doing this. I'm coloring in circles. A little bit lighter. All right, move your page around if you need to, so it's consistent. Right, and then your next one is going to be a bit lighter. And then your next one is super, super light. And then last one is nothing. Okay? So, like the example. Okay? So, once you got that, it's really good practice to do value scales. However, that's nice that you can do value scales. So, let's put that to use. The next part is that we're going to put that knowledge into basic shapes. So I have 3 shapes here. I have a sphere, I have a cylinder, and I have a cube. We are going to draw them in your book twice. So we have 2 sets. One, using pressure shading in these examples, you are going to shade them in to make them look realistic. And the second one, using stippling, you do the same thing. So a few tips for you is, number 1, you're saying, well, I can't draw a circle. It's tricky, right? But it's not necessarily tricky. You can do it. So my tip is to draw your circle really light first. Super, super light. I've had way too much coffee this morning, and do your best you can, right? Just lightly sketch them out, okay? Now my tip is you're using your range of values. So if you're going from your dark as totally light, you're getting all of those stages in there. But another tip, if you want to visualize it, for a circle, I just sort of imagine, say the light was hitting here. I kind of imagine that it looks like this. And this is kind of my value scale. It's, I'm imagining then that each one of these is a value scale. So super dark, a bit lighter, a bit lighter, a bit lighter, a bit lighter, nothing, right? But the secret to making things look three-dimensional is staying in the lines, having minimal pencil lines, having a range of value, but also the way that you do your lines follows the contour or the shape of your object. I can't do this like flat because it's not flat, it's three-dimensional. I want this convincing that this is round. So that means you're going to go all the way around, of course, but that means when I'm drawing, I'm shading it, and I'm adding value to it. I'm going around and around and around. Okay, so my lines have to go around. They follow the direction of it. Okay, so I'm just doing a portion of it because it's going to be boring for you. And I'm running out of time. So I'm getting lighter and lighter and lighter. Again, my lines, I'm going to over-exaggerate. My lines are going around. totally nothing. Okay, you get the point, right? You're going around. Okay, so this one, your lines have to go like this. This is flat, right? So the lines can go flat, okay? Think of this as dark. Think of the value scale kind of going this way. Dark, 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 lighter. So I go to dark. Sorry, I'm going super fast now. And I gotta go lighter, to lighter, to lighter, to really light to nothing. Okay? So, but as long as my lines follow like this, then I'll make it convincing. Okay? For your cube is flat. Think about this is maybe the bottom, totally, totally dark, the darkest that you can. So this would be like a whole square. Just be dark. Think about this as your highlight, so it's nothing. This one is going to be your midtone, so this is going to be in between. If you have 3 distinct edges, and the edge, another tip is the edge only exists, as you see mine are really light, because there's value or shading on it. If you have 3 distinct edges, I could do this better, but I'm going super fast. Alright, so you do the whole thing. It will start to look 3-dimensional, so you can sort of see it already. So nothing, mid-tone, totally solid. Okay, and then everything will come alive. Alright, so you do the same thing with your stippling, so follow the examples in your book. Okay? Alright, good luck!